Alrighty, I am back. I was having some technical difficulties for some reason. My mic wasn't working, so I am doing 100 hours of reasons that you should not support Autism Speaks. Trying to adjust my camera. I haven't. I just found this camera. I bought this really expensive camera and I lost it for a little bit because I had to move. Now, since we're talking about Autism Speaks, I found this website. I do not know anything about Illuminati here. I have no idea who they are or anything else. But I did find this Autism Speaks thing, so I want to see what they say, and maybe we'll learn something. I don't know what this, how well they are. And I'm terrible about, oh yeah, look at this. He's got lots of great information, or she does, or whatever. Anyway, so let's go.
See a company or organization name in the title of one of my videos, you can probably take an educated guess that I'm probably not going to be sharing their highlights. In fact, you'll find that I most likely will be highly critical of them, and there is no exception for today's video. Now, I know that many of you have asked me to look into the organization Autism Speaks, and I will admit, I didn't know that much about them. I have an assumption that they work to do something with.
So it appears this is like a channel that I'm gonna go a little deeper here into their channel and see.
PETA. What can I say? I never get tired of.
Okay, so this channel talks evidently about a lot of different things, and it looks like they're kind of investigative and so forth. Kind of interesting, but I don't know if this is an autistic person
Autism, but I wasn't quite sure.
We shall see. But I was asked yesterday in an interview, is it okay for other people to speak for autistic people? And there's a comedian, boy, I wish I could remember his name. I saw his name, but he said it's okay to speak in boy, if I could remember how he put that. The way I put it is Autism Speaks doesn't want to speak for autistic people. It wants to speak instead of autistic people. And it is okay, basically, as this comedian said, to speak in regards or in an autistic person's interest, but not for that autistic person. So it's definitely, I mean, you can always speak up for the kid that's getting beat up or whatever else, you know, but sometimes, you know, they got to speak up for themselves, whatever. So I thought that was really great thought. So I'm going to take a look at this. This is very interesting. This is maybe from an outside perspective, so we shall take
Exactly what it was. So I started to look into it, and I started to read things, and well, not much of it was good. As much as I dislike MLMs and how they target the weak and vulnerable, I dislike charities and nonprofits that parade themselves as helpful when in fact they are hurtful to the very causes they claim to stand up for. And well, since many of you brought this to my
and that's the complaint of the autistic community here.
attention, here we are, taking a look at a company that claims to increase the understanding and acceptance of those on the spectrum, all while belittling those with it and sharing some rather dangerous mindsets.
Including genocide. The purpose of Autism Speaks creation was to cure autism. Now, I have an autistic brain. My brain was formed in my mother's womb as an autistic brain. It's a brain type, as opposed to a holistic brain, which is not autistic. That is all it is. It's like having blonde hair. It's just a different type of person. It's a different brain type. It is like a different hair color. So it is not a disease. Yet they did treat it like a disease, and they wanted to eliminate autism. So the problem with that is they wanted to get rid of this brain. And if you were to quote cure this brain, I would no longer be who I am. I would be someone else. And their idea was to get early detection or whatever, and quote do in vitro things. So either the I guess the pregnancy could be terminated or they could fix. Um, so the very outset of Autism Speaks is genocide.
Bigger and more important question here is, can you actually give Autism Speaks your donations in good conscience? Let's find out in today's video.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
I wish I had the production quality of this creator. Holy heck. I'm hoping that someday, as my channel gets bigger, hopefully it'll get bigger or grow, whatever, that I can start getting some people to help me with some things. I have messed around with editing and so forth for 6 years or so, and it is so hard for me. I could build a computer all day, but try to make me click somewhere, no.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminati, and thanks so much for tuning into today's video. Now, the troubles Autism Speaks has had isn't like the MLMs I like to cover or shady business practices, but more about how an organization that intends to do good and how it is in fact gone so wrong. And today, we're going to be taking a look at some of their worst mistakes and how it actually hurts the cause they intend to stand for. So let's get into it. Symbolized by a little blue puzzle piece, Autism Speaks was founded to spread awareness and provide outreach to those affected by autism. On their Our Mission into it.
Okay, yeah, let's get into this.
Symbolized by a little blue puzzle piece, Autism Speaks was founded to spread awareness and provide outreach to those affected by autism.
That's not correct. It was created by the Wrights, a couple, and they wanted to cure their grandson of autism and basically eradicate autism. And if it was cancer, that would be a noble cause. But this is my brain and who I am they're trying to get rid of.
On their Our Mission portion of their website, they claim to be committed to the following things: increasing global understanding and acceptance of
with autism, which is now let me see when this was made. Okay, this is 2020. It's 2024 now. Some things have changed. Holy moly! This has had 4 million views.
People with autism, being a catalyst for life-enhancing research breakthroughs.
Kind of, this is okay. They got 1.2 million subscribers. Wow. This is a big channel. These people know what they're doing.
Increasing early childhood screening and timely interventions.
Now, this with autism, that is characterizing it as a disease. Now, in this last week, they have changed some of the wording to go to identity first. And why this is so important. If I say I'm autistic, I'm talking about my brain. If I say that I'm an autistic person, once again, I'm identifying my brain type and who I am. When you say a person with autism, it's suggesting that it's a disease that is bad and needs to be eradicated or something. And we're simply a different neurotype. We're a different type, I guess a different type of human being. A normal brain type of human beings. We've been around for a long time.
Improving the transition to adulthood, and ensuring access to reliable information and services throughout the lifespan. And I'm assuming they mean the lifespan of someone with autism, but they do just end the bullet point.
It's pretty similar right now. I think they have changed, and they said autistic people somewhere in this. So let's go. Oh crap! I hate this. Advocate. Okay, so this still says with autism throughout their lifespan. We do this through advocacy, services, support, research, and this research part is the very bad part because they give so much money to research, and they need to stop that completely because they have such a bad reputation. They put millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to eliminate autistic people, to try to make us no longer exist. to try to destroy my brain and make it into something else, to make me someone else. And because of the way that they characterized autistic people, which she will be getting into, um, it's best if they abandon all research grants and so forth and went directly to autistic services. That money would be much better spent directly helping autistic people in their lives.
Point just like that. But overall, it sounds like some pretty awesome goals, right? None of these things sound inherently wrong, and if anything, that sounds like exactly what someone who may have autism would want or need for help or support. So without any
Absolutely.
further ado, let's dive right in and see how
And any cult that you have, it's everything is always going to sound great when you look at it at face value. That's how they get people in. And Autism Speaks does fit the Stephen Hassan bite model of authoritarian control, which is the basically the flagship, the main model of what people look at to decipher if an entity is an actual cult.
Autism Speaks has twisted helping and providing awareness for a developmental disorder to, well, something else entirely.
Imagine
Imagine a lightsaber that fits in your pocket. That's the power of this $600.
your child has autism. Mine does. I'm Sylvester Stallone.
Just in case you don't know what autism is, let me briefly summarize here and say that autism, or Autism Spectrum Disorder, or ASD, is defined by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention as a developmental disability that can cause social, communication, and behavioral changes.
This is the definition that Autism Speaks does use to this day. It's 4 years later.
As is the case with many developmental disabilities, there's a spectrum, and a range that people with autism fall on. Sometimes they may be extremely disabled and need help with everyday tasks like cooking and bathing, and other people with autism may not need help at all.
We all need help. I'm going to disagree with her there. We all need help to an extent. But for instance, I went in the Navy. I was independent. At 17, I went in the Navy, and I was honorably discharged. I was a hospital corpsman, and I served with the Marine Simplified Devil Dogs. I was a corrections officer for 15 years. But the thing is, when I was in the military, I had people over me, my bosses, that could help me with things, that did help me with things, that when I've always basically had a partner in my life, and those people have helped me. For instance, I had a hotel. I had an apartment very briefly after I got divorced a few years ago. It was the first time that I had ever lived in a place that was not my own. And I don't pay bills. I would take an entire day to pay 4 bills that probably took 10-15 minutes because it was that difficult for me. So whenever I've had partners and so forth, they've taken care of those things for me, taken care of the finances, taken care of doctor's appointments. Now, technically, could I get that accomplished? Yes, but not well. I might miss a lot of appointments. I might it would be very, very difficult to, and I wouldn't say that I by any means function like a holistic person, or as well in society as a holistic person as far as like paying bills and stuff like that. Yeah.
And could even be considered gifted for their unique way of looking at the world around them. Asperger's, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, both fall into this autistic spectrum.
Okay, right now it's all ASD. I don't know why she's mentioning this, and that's been more than 4 years ago.
There is no cure, and about 1 out of every 59 babies fall somewhere on the spectrum, and signs of autism start at early childhood. Autism Speaks was founded in 2005 by Bob and Suzanne Wright, grandparents of a child with autism, to spread awareness about this disorder.
No, it was to cure. That was literally their mission statement at the time. And the owner of Home Depot gave $35 million, and there are three different organizations. Now I don't know how they did this, but they merged these three organizations into one, and then with this massive amount of money, started really advertising hard. And to their credit, the one thing that Autism Speak has given us is autism awareness. I used to make fun of autism awareness before I was autistic. Even now I do. Autism awareness. Who cares? I was like, this is 3 years ago, before I was diagnosed. But every time I'd hear about autism awareness, I was like, so what? I'm aware. Now what? And there was never anything. It was just autism, autism. You know, you'd hear that little brief snippet on the radio, autism awareness, and then it'd go on to your favorite song. So because there was no depth behind it, I was like, who cares? We know it exists. Let's move along, people. And hopefully we are as a community, and that's what my purpose is here. So I guess I'd better quit rambling and let her go on. Of course, she's wearing this puzzle piece that autistic people can't stand.
They've grown to become the largest autism advocacy in the United States since then, and it's not hard to see.
I would say definitely the world. Definitely the world. In fact, they got World Autism Day through the UN, which was what, I think it was the 2 days ago.
Why? Their founders.
I do not like Autism Speaks. I want them to completely dissolve, but I am an autistic person, and I want to be honest and true. Now, if it was possible that they could turn a new leaf, which it isn't possible, and I've discussed that, because of where they have been, there's no recovery from, I want to kill you, to I'm going to speak for you because I know better than you, and I'm not going to even mention the autistic people or autism community, or that they might know anything about that autistic people might know anything about autism. So they are extremely ableist, even to this day, on their website, and you can see it yourself.
Were far from the baby-killing psychopath we talked about with Young Living, but notable wealthy business people. Bob Wright was a lawyer in 1969 and eventually worked his way up to becoming president of GE Financial Services in 1984. The company was acquired by NBC, and Bob Wright himself became the CEO and chairman of NBC in 2001. By the time he retired from the company, NBC was generating $3.1 billion in profit alone. Bob was definitely successful, and if we're being honest with one another here, you need someone like that to start a nonprofit. A great cause can only take you so far if you're not sure how to grow and spread awareness.
And frankly, I wish I was that kind of leader. I mean, that's amazing. My father was that type of guy, and I'm just not. I'm just not.
And Bob was undoubtedly very good at that. When he first founded Autism Speaks in 2005, he knew there was a need for someone with a hefty wallet and influence, so he went to billionaire and philanthropist Bernie Marcus, who donated $25 million to kickstart Autism Speaks.
I thought it was 35. I've seen 35 a lot of times, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of money.
Using that money, Autism Speaks started some great campaigns in their first couple years. They launched a campaign to raise awareness and talk about early signs of autism, and the Today Show aired a week-long series of stories talking about the subject. In 2006, they sponsored and distributed a show.
And I am very happy that there is autism awareness and so forth. The way I discovered that I was autistic was through a friend, and they probably somehow found out through autism awareness, and thus I found out through them. So I do want to give them that credit. However, when they want to murder you, that's not good. When they don't want you alive, when they want to replace your brain, no.
Short film called Autism Every Day. We'll get to this in a little bit. And then co-founder Suzanne Wright met with, and I'm really gonna pronounce this wrong, Sheikha Moza bint Nassar of Qatar, a royal family member in Qatar, to ask about her country sponsoring a United Nations resolution to recognize World Autism Awareness Day. It was accepted, and Light It Up Blue campaign has been adopted on April.
And boy, autistic people, the actually autistic community does not like this lighted up blue thing.
Second around the world. Again in 2006, just a year after its founding, Autism Speaks merged with NAR, National Alliance for Autism Research, founded in 1994. NAR tends to lead more towards the research, treatment, and hope for a cure for autism, whereas Autism Speaks was focused more on
And it can't be cured. It's like saying a German Shepherd should be cured of being a German Shepherd, or a Dalmatian should be cured of being a Dalmatian. No, they're dogs. You don't need to be. They don't need to be cured of being their breed. I don't need to be cured of having the brain type that I have.
awareness at the time, as far as I can tell. So this seemed to be a happy partnership, and NAR was no small player in this either. They spent over $20 million to over 200 projects that research autism. Autism Speaks also merged with CAN, Cure Autism Now, founded in 1995 by parents of an autistic son, Jonathan Shestack and Portia Iverson. This was built of parents, doctors, and scientists devoted to research, prevention, and ultimately treatment. Shestack and Iverson were invited to join the board of NAR, but said no and declined because they didn't set out to become part of a scientific establishment, and they considered NAR overly cautious for working within it. Now, going back to Autism Speaks here, this all sounds really impressive.
Now, what's funny here is, see this white page, even on their website today, you would think that this is theirs. This isn't what she generated here. You would think that Autism Speaks might know that autistic people are very sensitive to light, and the light screen hurts. But they don't have that much consideration for an autistic person. And so thus they have white screens, because who cares about the autistic people and if they hurt?
They merged with multiple nonprofits focused on autism, funded by millions and millions of dollars, all within the first couple years of being founded. It is honestly amazing the work that they started, and I have nothing against autism awareness, and I want to make that absolutely clear here and now. But of course, things aren't always as they seem, and I think the cracks slowly began to show, and if I had to pinpoint where, it would be in the next year, in 2008.
There is only one thing worse than a fist. Boom. A child. No.
Autism Speaks had a video on their website in 2008 called Getting the Word Out. In that video, they said, living with autism can be a very cold and lonely life for a child, not to mention very challenging for the whole family. One day, that child living with autism will grow into an adult living with autism. And what a bleak...
With autism, that disease. See, and they still have that culture, and that they still use that same disease-ridden language when they speak. The person with autism. And the autistic community can't stand that. But Autism Speaks does not pay attention to the autistic community. They don't care what we think. And so they just continue to insult us and rub salt into the wound.
Very challenging for the whole family. One day, that child living with autism will grow into an adult living with autism. And what a bleak picture, honestly. And if this rubs you the wrong way, even a little bit, you're not alone. An autistic blogger was frustrated by this and made a parody called Getting the Truth Out in response. And in there she wrote, "The young woman in this picture has autism. She can't speak, so this website is speaking for her, and many others like her.
And it's more so that they want to speak instead of autistic people. And they clearly say that they speak for autistic people, and then don't mention the autistic people or anything on their website in the sense of the autistic community's voice. Autistic people are never qualified as being smart enough to understand their condition or to help other people. Like my grandmother and my mother were, I know my mother was autistic, probably my grandmother. I'm autistic and my children are autistic. We're talking at least 3 generations of autistic people, and I'm sandwiched right there in the middle. So I do have that experience being a child, a father, a grandson, and grandfather. And with that, being an autistic person, because we have this tendency to research, I think that kind of qualifies. I hate calling myself an expert at anything, but in the neurotypical sense, yes, I am an expert, absolutely, at autism, and a lot of us autistic people really are.
Her aim is to portray some of the realities of living with autism.
And
In
howdy.
addition to her, Gareth Nelson, who founded Aspies for Freedom, also put a bunch of parody websites out there trying to steer people away from the way that autism was being portrayed on Autism Speaks website. But that was only the start. In September 2009, Autism Speaks made a short film called I Am Autism, in which it insulted autistic people throughout the United States after was aired at an annual World Focus.
And it so insulted autistic people throughout the video. They said that we will destroy families, that we will destroy your your financial situation, that we're just horrible disease. It was horrible.
On autism event. And it's bad, you guys. I mean, it's really, really bad. It looks and sounds like it's out of a horror movie. Some people get easily offended, and
I love her voice and her cadence. She's definitely neurotypical. She's not autistic, and just tell by the way she's speaking. But I really do. I really do appreciate this. She's doing a great job.
we know this, but this really is not one of those times. Here is a portion of that ad.
I am autism. I work very quickly. I work faster than pediatric AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined. And if you are happily
That was me right there, by the way. I swear, if Autism Speaks ever has me on
diabetes combined.
Watch this.
And if you are happily married, I will make sure that your marriage.
I'll show you this kid.
I am
It
autism.
just cracks me up.
I work very quickly. I work
That would be me right there. And when Autism Speaks does this, they make the kids look more autistic. It's like that freeze face. When I've done tons and tons of editing and so forth, and you know, when you freeze like a video, whatever, and you get that, they make sure it seems like they make sure they catch that, and that's what they show. That's the autism poster child look, I guess.
faster than pediatric AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined. And if you are happily married, I will make sure that your marriage fails. Your money will fall into my hands, and I will bankrupt you for my own self-gain.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hockley from Sandy Hook Promise.
Okay.
I know this is hard to
I do not pay the big bucks to YouTube.
What the hell? It's so absolutely hopeless, and it's really fear-mongering, and I just can't believe that this was approved by whoever had to actually approve this. I understand that autism can be horribly difficult.
Not to mention they had an entire production team to do this. I'm sure. I don't know. I know they sent out to a lot of people to get like their films of their kids and so forth, and they said it was for autism benefit or whatever. It was, and the parents didn't know exactly what they were doing with these film clips, and I think some of the, as I understand it, some of them were very upset with how they portrayed their children and so forth.
Difficult, at least from everything I've heard, seen, all of that. And I have no doubt it's a struggle, and at times the parents that deal with a severely autistic child can be burdened by the disability as well. But to suggest that
And nowadays, we don't like to say severely autistic. We focus on support needs, level 1, 2, and 3. And it depends on, some people need more support than others. And that's something that Autism Speaks is not really doing. They made Eileen Lamb refers to her son as being severely autistic. The reason we don't like that is like even more grosser, even worse, autistic, even a worse person or less of a person or whatever. Anyway, a Dalmatian can't be a severely Dalmatian, and a German Shepherd can't be a severe German Shepherd. It's a German Shepherd. They're types of dogs. This is a type of brain. So we can't have a severe brain or a less severe brain. It's a brain.
there's no happiness, no hope, and that autism is doomed to lead to bankruptcy and divorce is absolutely ridiculous. Imagine being a child in that audience, aware enough to understand the strain that your disorder puts on your parents, but not being able to stop it, and then hearing a video that says you are ruining your parents' lives, because that's what that message was actually saying. It's making out autism to be...
And you got to understand, this is the starting point. This is 2009. It was 2005 when it was created, but this is their starting view of what an autistic person was, that they want to get rid of them. They don't want them to be on the planet. They want to, they don't like my brain type, so they're going to get rid of me. And then that's how they characterize autistic people, to encourage people to commit genocide.
A giant, scary, unbeatable monster that ruins everything around you. I don't know about you, but if I were a child trying to better understand my own disorder, and then I saw this video, I'd be so confused and hurt and blaming myself. I would wonder if it's my fault that mommy and daddy are divorced because of my autism or broke or whatever the case. And it's not. And it's messed up that an organization should be promoting awareness and aid, and it's actually going to this dark route. And instead of being hopeful, and here's how we handle things and how it can get better, and it's going to something just completely irresponsible and kind of destructive.
Look! We're talking like $39 million they netted last year, and less than $500,000 was earmarked or went directly to autistic families. Think about it. But the executive staff got millions in bonuses, all spread out between them.
Can your
essential oils
explain that?
Can your science explain why it rains?
Yes! Yes, it can!
So around 2009, 2010-ish was also when the whole autism can be caused by vaccines position began to really take off in this Autism Speaks community. The stance has been kicking around for a while, and I'm sure you know how I really feel about that misinformation being spread. Vaccines don't cause autism, period.
The doctor who put that out, it was not a peer-reviewed paper, and he was disbarred for purposely putting out disinformation. Or not disbarred, I don't know. He lost his medical license.
I'm literally not going to repeat this. If you've seen any of my anti-vax videos before, you know the tea. So let's just get into exactly what happened here. Karen London, bless her soul, was one of the founders of NAR, which, as you'll recall, was one of those companies absorbed by Autism Speaks that was devoted to the scientific why does this happen side of autism.
And there was nothing wrong with that. To figure out why this happened or whatever. And frankly, I have zero problem with us doing studies and so forth to help us with our sensitivities, etc. The problem is because Autism Speaks gives millions and millions and millions of dollars to all kinds of science research. Because of their history of eugenics, there's always going to be a stigma behind them, and there's always going to be mistrust towards Autism Speaks doing science stuff. So they need to stop all science funding, all grants and so forth that go to science or research, and reallocate that to go directly to the autistic community. And that's where those dollars were supposed to go when people were donating it anyway, was directly to help the autistic person. Now, if there are other organizations in the future that wish to do research, like I said, to help us for sensitivity and so forth, I don't have a problem with that. But not Autism Speaks. They have dropped the ball, and they will never, ever, ever, ever recover.
She's a good Karen, you guys, I promise. They can exist. Karen London, along with Allison Singer, an executive from Autism Speaks, launched ASF, the Autism Science Foundation. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go out on my controversial little limb here.
Karen Singer was involved with Autism Speaks for quite a while. I believe she might have even been the CEO at one time, but she's definitely in the executive staff.
And say that if your nonprofit organization about autism does so little in terms of scientific research that your executives are going and creating other nonprofits, it might say you're not doing enough, well, Science. ASF was founded based on the premise that autism has a strong genetic component and can't be caused by vaccines. Also, that evidence-based early diagnosis and intervention are critical. Bob Wright.
I don't know about critical, but early detection is very important, just so that we can help that child in the way that they need. If we don't know that they have sensitivities or hearing, we're not going to know to get them headphones or earplugs. If we don't know that they have light sensitivities, like I have right here, I've got the light in my eyes and it is just bugging me. And so, yeah, I'm good with that.
The Autism Speaks founder called their resignations disappointing and sad. But that's not all he said. He also said that it's possible autism is caused by vaccines at that time. And even as late as 2016, he's maintained that there is no definitive answer as to whether vaccines cause autism on the Today Show.
Now, that's the founder, okay? Autism Speaks right now. They changed their wording and they specifically say that they do not believe that vaccines cause autism. I don't know. Oh, come on. Really? I thought if I just put in vaccine that they would, Oh, wow. It's kind of hard to find something on their little thing that says that. I know it's in here. I know. Oh, I think they got a misinformation thing somewhere. I know they got a misinformation. Tab here. Ah, to heck with it. Let's move right along.
And just to be clear, this is not okay. You can't be the founder of an organization called Autism Speaks and take this position. There is so...
And once again, you have all these white screens and stuff. That's how they do it all the time.
So much research out there that says vaccines don't cause autism and that there's no link between the two. It is so unbelievably rare that vaccines aren't safe, but it's far more common that not being vaccinated can lead to death. So if you are an organization about autism and a common misconception is that autism is caused by vaccines, you need to have a strong, factual opinion because people are listening to you. Autism Speaks is a huge foundation, and I'm sure that families and donors are going to take what the founder says seriously. It is irresponsible, dangerous, reckless, and beyond sickening to me that Bob Wright used his platform.
And they are not particularly well educated from their own words in autism. Even to this day, there's no indication that they are involved with the autistic community or that they really truly do understand autism like most of us in the autistic community.
On television, no less, to spread this misinformation. Autism Speaks had to backpedal on Bob Wright's statement and come out multiple times over the years to say vaccines don't cause autism in 2014 and in 2017 specifically. But their founder's actions are pretty damn disgusting if you ask me. But seriously, take a look at this website and tell me where it talks about their achievements in research. What exactly have they even discovered here? It says Autism Speaks research fellow.
They get really, really vague. They say, oh, well, we help autistic people. We provide resources, and then they just stop. And like I said, if you go on that website and try to go through their resources, you are going to do 100 times better on Google. And the thing is they have this the ACT, what do they call it? Autism response team, autism response team. So you call in or whatever, or you put in a ticket on their website, and then they respond or whatever via email or whatever. And all they have to do is say, see our website. And no matter what, they have helped an autistic person get resources. It doesn't matter if they have the resources or if there's even any reference to the resources that they need on their site. They have completed that ticket and they have helped direct that person to help. And so that's how corporations and stuff like get away with the slimy, shady stuff.
Fellowships support groundbreaking research by early career investigators to launch the careers of highly promising autism research while advancing research that improves lives. Already, many of our fellows have made important discoveries about autism and how to better meet the needs of people on the spectrum. So
now, what you're going to notice here is that it's always like third party. When we look at this website, when she talks about it, it's always about those autistic people. It is not inclusive, nor does it qualify, like I said, autistic people to know anything. Hello to who's watching us. Say hello in the chat. I'd certainly appreciate it. I'll say hello. I have a feeling that people from Autism Speaks are watching me, and I don't know who you are watching me, and that's great, because maybe you guys can learn something. Because thus far, the people who have been watching this and stayed on here like this refuse to say who they are. And I've been doing this for a little over a week now.
wait, what important discoveries? It's all very generic, filled with goals and basic information that's already been discovered. They say they're educating pediatricians about autism, but they don't show how or what they're saying. If people are donating to you,
show your work.
Giving up their hard-earned money, that might just want to be something you would want to consider explaining. In their video on their research page, 1 minute in, they say early intervention makes a big difference, as if that's a breakthrough discovery, when that's exactly what ASF was saying in 2010 when your founder, Bob Wright, was spouting how vaccines might play a factor in it. Whereas Autism Speaks has at least tried and made some sort of attempt to backpedal on the vaccine statement and insensitivity, this one,
and they actually have. They have completely backpedaled on that, and they flatly say now that vaccines do not cause autism.
Ending has really never shown any signs of improvement. Autism Speaks makes autism sufferers look absolutely incapable. Autism Speaks dramatize,
and they still do that on their site because they, like I said, they don't qualify an autistic person as knowing anything. They always say, "You come to us." We are speaking for autistic people, but they are speaking actually instead of autistic people.
And shows the very worst in children. In order to get money. In one video,
that autism face. And I'm surprised they don't. Okay, I tick. Okay, and I definitely might make noise, so I'm surprised they didn't add like a no or some of those weird noises or something that I make, like and I'm sure some autistic people do. I'm surprised they didn't even add that to make us look more retarded.
Video called Autism Every Day, the one
I don't use that word lightly, but it is the way that they portray us.
Mentioned earlier. A mother says this around 4-ish minutes into the video.
Parents who are forced to put kids in schools that are completely overcrowded and 12 kids and 1 teacher, and the kids don't make progress. But I remember that was a very scary moment for me when I realized I had sat in the car for about 15 minutes and actually contemplated putting Jody in the car and driving off the George Washington Bridge.
Jody is in the orange shirt there. That is Jody. She's saying that she thought about killing her kid. Right there in front of her.
Yeah, you heard that right. With her child right there in the background, she talks about potentially driving her car off of a bridge. Just let that sink in. Because according to the mom, it would have been far easier to putting her child in the car and throwing the car off the bridge than it was to having her daughter in a overcrowded school that had 12 kids to 1 teacher. And
now, Autism Speaks, they put out this ad. They created this ad on their own. This wasn't an oopsie mistake. This is what they wanted people to see.
Autism Speaks films this and sticks it into a video, and I don't know why. They're normalizing this behavior when I don't care if your child is screaming and banging their head against the wall or whatever they're doing. You should not ever, in any case, be sitting in your car for 15 minutes wondering if driving them off a bridge is a good idea. I feel
and even verbalizing that is kind of horrifying, particularly now if you were to confess this to a close friend and on their back porch or whatever, that might be one thing, but to put this out on a video brazenly and to characterize autistic people as being that horrible that moms, they want to kill them because, well, our brain's wrong. They don't like our brains.
Horrible for this child who's just sitting there looking out the window in the background, probably having no idea what her mom is actually.
And she may or may not have been paying attention to her mom or had any idea. That is true. I do that a lot of times myself. My wife can be in the room or whatever, and I can even hear her voice or whatever, but she'll have to very specifically call me or whatever for me to know what's even being said in the room, because my brain is just doing too much stuff. So I have to stop and listen to her.
Saying. Now, before I continue talking about Autism Speaks exploitation.
This lady's voice is so freaking amazing. I have audio processing disorder. Women's voices in particular that are in the higher ranges, I just can't hear. This lady has a deep, smooth voice. Like I said, I'm going to guess there's no way that she's autistic just by hearing the way her cadence and so forth of speaking is. I don't think she's autistic. And I really do appreciate what she's doing here. I really do.
Here, there's an important point that should be made. The woman speaking.
Oh, this is what it is. She is speaking on autistic people's behalf, as opposed to speaking for autistic people. Whereas Autism Speaks wants to speak instead of autistic people.
Is Allison Singer, the co-founder of ASF I mentioned earlier. She did later apologize for her wording, saying that she regretted her phrasing in a WordPress article. I don't want anyone walking.
I'm sure she did regret it after everybody like, damn, you are a mother? Really? Don't want you to be my mama. Of course she regretted it. She said something horrible and people called her out on it. She was thinking horrible thoughts. And that's sad itself. It's unfortunate that that lady felt that way. By the way, she was a Autism Speaks employee.
Away from this.
Can anyone learn to sing, or is it a talent you're just...
Oh, once again, whoever's watching, I would definitely really appreciate it if you'd say hello.
Because the problem,
like I said, I think I do have Autism Speaks people watching my material, which is great. I know they do on TikTok, and I hope they are here so that they might learn something. The Autism Speaks, I have the Keith Wargo, the CEO, asked in an email what the autistic community needed. I did not respond to that email. Rather, I have responded publicly, and I said, ask the autistic community. You need to be part of the autistic community. You should not be asking me. You are a company, that is called Autism Speaks. Think about it.
This is clearly a troubled, overwhelmed parent that vented to the camera, a parent that later used their resources and experiences to found ASF and make something of that situation. I think the problem is with Autism Speaks. They're capturing the lowest moments that these parents are facing and using it to promote their fear-mongering. Then you hear the same...
And they're getting a little bit better. Now they are getting... Actually, I'll say they're getting a lot better about that in 2024. The attitude remains and the tone remains. They never ever mention that there is an autistic community. They refuse to mention that there is an autistic community. They do not tell parents that the best resource for being an autistic parent is other autistic parents. Parents that are autistic with autistic kids. We talk to each other all the time. Rather than the echo chambers that Autism Speaks promotes and the ABA promotes, where you have a neurotypical parent with an autistic kid, and sometimes in a lot of these face groups, it's just those people, and they shun actually autistic people, and they won't listen to them. And the reason for that, a lot of it is, it's Autism Speaks and how they disqualify autistic people as knowing about ourselves. They know better than we do. So they're going to speak instead of us.
Hopeless rhetoric throughout the rest of the video. The $50,000 that we're in debt is all about the autism. It's very hard to deal with the emotional issues. It took all the joy out of having a baby because it was all about fear. We say we're sending Daniel to Harvard over and over again. You just keep trying. You keep being disappointed and you just keep going broke. And this isn't...
Oh, by the way, for the person watching, on my lives are on my... If you just go to live, what do you call it? Tab on my channel, you can see all of my lives in full.
How Autism Speaks should want to get involved and help your child. How does this message do any good? This is more and more about the burden on these families, and I feel horrible for the children involved in this. They can't help this, and the parents don't have a single positive to say about their own child. Talking about the difficulties is one thing, but droning on and on and on about them for 7 minutes, it's a lot. Many autistic people do not support Autism Speaks.
Most of the actually autistic community do not support Autism Speaks. In fact, it's rare to find someone in the actually autistic community that supports Autism Speaks. In our Facebook groups, there are many Facebook groups that if you mention ABA or Autism Speaks, they're just going to ban you. It is that sore of a subject. And in those groups, they just want positive things and so forth. So they don't want to deal with that negativity.
And that's the real point here. If autistic people don't support your autistic organization, you've probably done something wrong.
Unfortunately, the Better Business Bureau rates Autism Speaks with flying colors, which is ludicrous. But what it is most of that is based on how they do their paperwork. And they do their paperwork properly, evidently, and so they have high rankings there. And frankly, there have not been enough actually autistic people that have made complaints to the Better Business Bureau about Autism Speaks. If we were to come together as a community and make those complaints, I think they would definitely change their attitudes on that one.
Wanted to see
and definitely change their ratings and drop Autism Speaks from their list.
What it was about them that actually bothered someone who is autistic. So I went over to Ask an Autistic and watched Amethyst's video, What's Wrong with Autism Speaks? And there's one point she brought up that she mentioned daily costs. To quote the article, despite the group's aim of speaking for autism, there is not one single autistic on its board of directors or otherwise represented within the ranks of the organization. There are plenty of autistics who are able to advocate for themselves, who are fully able to express what sort of support they would benefit from and would have benefited from as children. However, Autism Speaks wants very little to do with them. It seems like they're going for one part ironic, one part disturbing when you have an organization called Autism Speaks and yet not a single autistic person has any say in your company. They did at one
it's my understanding that they have 216 employees. Now I call this lady Token because she is the token autistic person. Her name is Eileen Lamb. She is their media person. She's in their executive staff. I understand she got like a $250,000 bonus last year. I'm not positive on that. But I call her Token, and this is the reason. If there are 216 employees, I've seen other numbers that said 2,000 something employees, but let's say 216 employees. So if you have 100 people, you are likely to have one autistic person in that group of 100. So if you were to get a group of 200 people, wherever you grocery store, anywhere in the world, if you got a random sample of autistic people, of 200 of them, you should have two autistic people, particularly if you took a sample of 216. Autism Speaks has 1 out of 216. So Autism Speaks has less people working for it than any random sample of people in the world. With any random sample of people in the world, you are likely to have more autistic people than works for Autism Speaks.
Point to have an autistic man named John Elder Robinson working for them, but he resigned in 2013 because of the same issue. Apparently, Autism Speaks didn't really listen to the issues John tried bringing to their attention, even though he made a lot of good points. In his blog spot, he says, Autism Speaks says it's for the advocacy group of people with autism and their families. It's not, despite having many chances to become that voice. Autism Speaks is one of the only major medical or mental health nonprofits whose legitimacy is constantly challenged by a large percentage of the people affected by the condition they target. No one says the Cancer Society does not speak for them.
And nobody says, oh, those damn Shriners, oh, or St. Jude's Hospital or whatever, oh, Children's Hospital, oh, that's terrible. No. They have created their own issue. Their hatred, their perceived hatred of autistic people has made their reputation. They made their bed, they gotta sleep in it. I have no idea what that means. Us autistic people aren't very good at those euphemisms.
No one describes the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation as an evil organization. All that and more is said of Autism Speaks every day. I've tried to be the voice of moderation, but it hasn't worked. He also states right off the bat, I have tried to help Autism Speaks staffers understand how destructive its messages have been to the psyches of autistic people. We do not like hearing that we are defective or diseased. We do not like hearing that we are part of an epidemic. We are not problems for our parents or society, or genes to be eliminated. We are people. That, more than anything, is what gets me about the entirety of Autism Speaks. They don't treat autistic people like people. Autism is consistently treated by this organization as an epidemic, a horrible disease, life-ending, when it's really not.
And the thing is even today, they don't tend to really treat us like people. They treat us like, I don't know, sickos or something? I don't know. The site is very off-putting to me as an autistic person because it does not feel inclusive to me as an autistic person. In fact, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with me as an autistic person.
Many autistic people can go on to lead fulfilling, normal lives. Not all, and yes, some autistic people will need more help than others. But every autistic person is a person that deserves love, happiness, and hope. And I don't...
Why don't they say that on their site? They do not... that would be wonderful if they said something like that on their site. And they don't. That was so simple. And I think that's something that they should say. Right? Right? But they don't.
All, and yes, some autistic people will need more help than others. But every autistic person is a person that deserves love, happiness, and hope. And I don't think Autism Speaks does that. If you're going to donate your money and help autism, I'd personally recommend the Organization for Autism Research, the #1 ranked autistic organization. And a link for their website.
I don't know if that's true now. I don't know anything really about this organization. ASAN, I believe, is the top organization in 2024. This is done 4 years ago, 2020.
It can be found in the description box. And they provide a chart right on their first page, which tells you exactly where their money goes. 30% goes out to reaching out to families, over 6 times more than what Autism Speaks has reported to spend. There are much better nonprofits out there that don't, whether inadvertently or maliciously, harm the people they're trying to help. And it's time Autism Speaks spoke out and really addressed their mistakes if they have any intention of doing better in the future. So with that being said, that's where we are going to end today's video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. And again, if you guys like this video, give it a like.
All right. Well, that was really cool.
Today is April 2nd, and today...
Ah, wow, this was, let's see, how many years ago was this? This is 4 years ago, so this is almost exactly to the day, 4 years ago. It's the 4th of April now. Actually, I think that's my ex-wife's birthday. Now that is, now that I think about it, I think it might be my ex-wife's birthday.
Today is Autism Speaks Light It Up Blue campaign. According to them, Autism Speaks...
Now, one thing that I just want to point out here, this website is called Autism Speaks. And if we look at this page here, it's an all-white page. Now, Autism Speaks, these people should know that autistic people have a high propensity to be light sensitive. So these pages, as I'm looking at it, it hurts my eyes. But they don't pay enough attention. They don't have enough deference to autistic people to bother to even consider it. It's just what happens.
Speaks celebrates the UN-sanctioned World Autism Day every single year on April 2nd. And to do this, they encourage you to wear blue. Now, in my last video, many of you in the comment section mentioned to wear hashtag red instead, which is a counter movement to the hashtag Light It Up Blue. But why would there even be a counter movement to the largest autism nonprofit in the world?
Exactly. A counter movement to an organization that's supposed to be helping you. And in her last video, she mentioned how a lot of autistic people made up sites making fun of Autism Speaks, basically trying to draw people away from that organization, and I applaud them for that.
Well, if you watched my recent video about Autism Speaks, you might get a pretty good reason as to why. And well, it turns out I have some more stuff to add to it, and it's not good, and a fair amount of you guys in the comment section saw this coming, and this really was not pleasant for anyone who was involved in this video, but things like this need to be brought to the surface, so what a better day to do it than on their big day. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Blair, or the Illuminati, and today we are going to talk a bit more about the foundation Autism Speaks. If you haven't heard the part 1 I did on them talking about what they stand for and the fear-mongering they use to get donations, I'd highly recommend you watch that first. But I'm assuming you're here because you're ready to see what else there is to still dig up, so let's get into it.
I think she's got like 4 or 5 videos, and she's not even an autistic person. By the way, her research here is amazing. I cannot do anything but compliment her research here.
I'd also like to start this off by saying that I was incredibly touched by all of the incredible comments on my video covering Autism Speaks. So many of you came out with your own stories about having a friend.
And this is a person speaking basically on, now she's actually investigating Autism Speaks, but this is what I characterize as speaking on behalf of autistic people, not for autistic people, and not in the way that Autism Speaks characterize it. They want to speak instead of autistic people. But so this is a great example of that.
Or family member, or many of you being on the spectrum yourselves. I'm so happy to hear that my subscribers know that autism isn't some horrible, life-ruining disorder like Autism Speaks wants to portray. For many, it allows them to see the world differently and makes them unique in a way that they express themselves.
I always, I guess since my 20s, I was diagnosed at 50, and I had no idea I was autistic, but I always said that I think differently. I recognized that I thought very differently. How my mind worked and how my mind saw problems and so forth was very different from most of the people I was around. The people that understood me were all autistic.
And organizations like this do more harm than good. But as you can guess, we're not done with Autism Speaks. And if you thought it couldn't get any
It's 4 years later, and I'm not done with Autism Speaks.
worse, it does. We've
Oh, by the way, hello to whoever is there. I would love it if you would say hello.
talked about their old videos, their disturbing mission statement, their position on vaccines, the lack of research, and the lack of support. It's hard to believe they could dig themselves into an even deeper hole, but Autism Speaks somehow managed that.
And they make a lot of blanket statements, vague statements like we help autistic people or we help them with resources, and there's no citing of it really.
It's so bad that I want to tell you right now.
And the problem is with Autism Speaks, the best thing they could do is show every single penny that they spend, exactly where every single penny goes. They will never, ever, ever, ever do anything close to such a thing because they do not want to be held accountable, which is why they will not submit to an interview with me. I just want to ask them some of these tough questions and up to date, and give them the opportunity to explain themselves. Give them the opportunity to understand what at least me as an autistic person, my qualms with the organization, and hopefully give them an opportunity to improve. But they are not interested in that.
Now, up front, that there will be mentions of actual torture in this video. If you think that's too much for you, I understand,
and that's still going on to this day. This is 2024. I think this is from 2020. Yeah.
Totally get it if you click away. I'll give a warning each time the subject comes up, but please know that it will come up on multiple occasions in this video, and I don't want anyone to be unprepared for that. So with that out of the way, let's dive right in and see what else is wrong with this foundation that I originally thought couldn't get any more despicable. When it comes to better managing autism in children, there's a few different routes one can take. Early intervention is key in order to help an autistic child have the resources and services they need to not only better understand themselves, but the world around them. We briefly touched upon that in the last video, and now we're going to go a little deeper into what these things are and where Autism Speaks comes into play with this. ParentCenterHub.org lists these services as the following: assistive technology, devices a child might need, audiology or hearing services, speech and language services, counseling and training for a family, medical services, nursing services, nutrition services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and psychological services. Some families might use these services.
We also need prosthetics, and what I mean by prosthetics is earplugs, headphones. I have all kinds of my glasses are tinted. Most of them, the ones I'm using now aren't, but most of my glasses are tinted and so forth. So that's another thing that's very important. And Autism Speaks, instead of donating money to research, could possibly provide some of those things for kids or whatever. Just saying. When they can't get them from other places. Hopefully that they can get them pretty easy. So.
More than others depending on the child's need, of course, but it's important that they have access to them. These services are to provide what many autistic people want, a way to be better understood. In one case, published in The Atlantic in 2016, these services weren't enough.
Humans were made to move, and if you're into cars...
Thank you for those commercials.
Age 17 at the time, received electroshock therapy at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. His mother explained that Kyle would often hurt himself, and even after a 9-month stay in the neurobehavioral unit at the Kennedy Krieger Institute, the doctors had no success. Kyle was discharged with a floor mat to cushion the blows when he hammered his head on the ground, splints on his arms to prevent him from hitting his face, and thick tights to protect his thighs and abdomen from his pinching. Kyle's mother goes on to explain that electroshock therapy isn't the barbaric treatment method people make it out to be, and how every other option was exhausted. A last resort for a desperate family that did their research and realized it might be right for them. Kyle is one example of a person whose self-injury behaviors, or SIB, were successfully lowered with electroshock therapy. Thankfully, it doesn't have to come to that for many children, because electroshock therapy has many risks we'll be getting into in a moment. Although more than
I don't think that's done anymore, except for like severe depressions and so forth. I don't know about that being done with autistic people now. However, there is the oh boy, what's the maybe she'll get into it. There is a clinic in the United States, one, and I'll try to remember where it is, but they still allow electric shocks to train autistic people to do what they want, just like you would shock a dog.
than a fourth of children with autism may engage in
And that is real. I think it's in Boston.
SIB, there are many ways to understand and help available. Dr. Brian A. Iwata, the head of the neurobehavioral unit at Kennedy Krieger, recorded data with 152 people over almost 4,000 sessions and concluded the following. Some 38% of children hurt themselves as a form of escape. About a fourth wanted attention, food, or toys, and another fourth hurt themselves for sensory input. A small number had more than one purpose for their behavior. With that information, the team crafted individualized treatments, such as teaching and reinforcing useful behaviors to replace self-injury in the child's repertoire. Dr. Iwata and many others advocated functional communication training to teach children ways of requesting what they want. A child who could point to a picture to communicate his need for a break or a drink would not need to bang his head to achieve the same purpose. Functional communication training is now considered very effective for SIB. But how does this relate to Autism Speaks? Well, these are the cases that Autism Speaks highlights. Autism
And I think some of those may be absolutely appropriate with what she was talking about at the very end there.
Speaks in their videos especially talks about how difficult it is to handle autism or how impossible managing it might be. Despite, of course, the clear evidence in this research stating that autism is something to be understood, not feared. But Autism Speaks did it again, you guys.
They love fear-mongering.
Rather than take this research about communication and, fund it or dive deeper into it or question what ways their foundation could do more to promote functional communication training, they went to the absolute extremes. After all, they've grouped autistic people into one box since they were founded, so why would they stop now? Electroshock therapy worked for Kyle, after all, so Autism Speaks, with their misguided, fear-mongering tactics to scare up donations and justify their bloated sense of self-importance, decided to endorse an electroshock therapy center that unfortunately did not know what they were doing. So, what exactly is electroshock therapy? The Mayo Clinic defines ECT as a procedure done under general anesthesia, in which a small electric current is passed through the brain, intentionally triggering a brief seizure. ECT seems to cause changes in brain chemistry that can quickly reverse symptoms of certain mental health conditions. ECT often works when other treatments are unsuccessful and when the full course of treatment is completed, but it may not work for everyone. Much of the stigma attached to ECT is based on early treatments in which high doses of electricity were administered without anesthesia, leading to memory loss, fractured bones, and other serious side effects. ECT is much safer today, although it still may cause some side effects. It now uses electric currents given in a controlled setting to achieve the most benefit with the fewest possible risks. They go on to say that it's done for severe depression, mania, catatonia, and agitation and aggression from dementia. The risk can include
They won't be near as aggressive if they can't function.
confusion, memory loss, physical side effects, and medical complications. In other words, yes, ECT can be beneficial, but it's risky and seen as a last resort and needs to be taken very seriously.
I really don't know about this. I wish I did. My impulse is to very much disagree with her, but that is flatly impulse. This is one subject that the electric stuff, I just said no, and so I've really never studied it, so I really can't contribute here.
Inducing a seizure will increase heart rate and blood pressure that could even lead to heart problems in rare cases. Now, here's what ticks me off about Autism Speaks in this whole situation. We've gone through how even the most challenging aspects of some autistic patients can be handled, how electroshock therapy should be seen as a last and nothing else works resort. It needs to be done professionally, carefully, and is seen as a management tool.
I know that most autistic people would be boiling right now. The idea of electroshock therapy, I wouldn't even mention in the autistic community as being a solution. I don't think I'd mention it really. No, I know it's still extremely frowned upon, no matter what in the autistic community, right or wrong, is what I can say.
Tool. So why does Autism Speaks think it's okay to endorse electroshock therapy as a treatment for autism, and not just, promoting carefully monitored electroshock therapy for the small percent that need it, but a center that has actually been deemed as torture? And no, I'm not exaggerating here. On Saturday, November 2nd, 2013, as you can see from the scanned images of their cards, Autism Speaks promoted the Judge Rottenberg Center.
That's what it is, the Judge Rottenberg Center, and they are still in operation today, and they will basically zap kids to correct their behavior. And I do believe it is much higher voltage or whatever than dog collars and dog training things and so forth. What they do to autistic people, if you did that to a dog, you probably get arrested.
Center as a service provider. The JRC, once the Behavioral Research Institute, was founded in 1971 by Harvard psychologist Matthew Israel. Matthew first opened up shop in California, taking in students with significant development, neurological, and behavioral disabilities with a no expulsion, no rejection policy. Now, let me pause for just a second there. A no expulsion, no rejection policy. Now, this might seem like a great thing when it comes to schools, when it comes to general businesses not turning people away. But this is a horrible, horrible thing when it comes to autism treatment. And why, you might ask? Because treatment needs to be individualized. Different people are going to respond to different things, and to not let them go because your method isn't working for them is disgusting. It's not as if Matthew was here gently speaking to the kids and using proven communicative methods either. And this is where you will be receiving the first warning that what I'm about to mention is pretty disturbing. His methodology of treatment was predicted on techniques called adversive intervention slaps, forced inhalation of ammonia, food deprivation, sleep deprivation, prolonged restraint, deep muscle pinches intended to inflict maximum pain, and long-term seclusion. One of the more disturbing practices that Matthew Israel, favors is called behavioral rehearsal lessons, in which students are coerced into producing unwanted behaviors solely for the purpose of subsequently punishing them. Essentially, aversive interventions operate on the same philosophy that some people apply to animals. If you pair an unwanted behavior with a pain stimulus, the unwanted behavior will go away.
And the thing is if you were to do this to a dog, you're going to jail. Just saying. If you forced a dog to inhale ammonia, you didn't feed it, you wouldn't let it sleep, you tied it up, you're going to jail. But it's okay if it's an autistic person. They're just autistic, it don't matter. We're helping them.
And
this is disgusting.
My God. And this is on children with behavioral disabilities, and this man was recommended by Autism Speaks. It gets so much worse than I thought. I mean, I won't lie to you guys. When I first started researching this video, I thought, okay, well, we'll talk about how electroshock therapy is messed up and when it's improperly used, and how Autism Speaks shouldn't be blanket recommending it to people that trust them.
The Colorado Springs Philharmonic invites you to experience one of the most beloved works in music, the organs.
For advice. But no, this is straight up torture. And not only that, but it's actually killed people. In California, one of Israel's students died as a result of his treatment methods. This was a 22-year-old named Vincent who passed away while in restraints at one of Israel's homes. Because of the man's tactics on treating autism, somehow, he avoided prison time. The BRI relocated, at first to Rhode Island, but when their regulatory agency refused to permit Israel to continue there, he settled in Canton, Massachusetts. Matthew Israel had the idea here that rather than use electroshock therapy as intended, which was very carefully, that he would use it as a means of aversive therapy, the negative reinforcement. And this.
So if they don't do what you want them to, just shock them. And they're still doing this to this day. Treating us as less than a dog. You would not do that with a dog.
This just puts me at an absolute loss of words. Matthew Israel invented his own device, a torture device really, called the Graduated Electronic Decallator, designed to be more powerful and painful than a police taser. And for those of you who don't know how painful,
and those are about 50,000 watts usually, or volts or whatever,
a police taser is, people call it overwhelming and often the most painful experience of their lives. And in some cases, people have died from those tasers. Now, I need to put in a few more warnings.
And once again, you could not do that to a dog.
Here, again, it's going to get graphic. That's your heads up. So take a deep breath. And with this graduated electronic decelerator, students were forced to wear electrodes attached to various parts of their bodies. And whenever they engage in any unwanted behavior, anything from headbanging to flapping their hands to getting out of their seat without permission, staff would press a button that caused an electric shock. When the state of Massachusetts attempted to end this barbaric practice, Israel sued the regulating agency. When he prevailed, forcing the then Commissioner of Mental Retardation to resign, he renamed the facility after the judge who oversaw the agreement, Ernest Rottenberg. Thus, this is why the name Judge Rottenberg Center exists that Autism Speaks promoted in 2013. Apparently, this judge not only told him he was free to continue, he just had to get court approval when he wanted to use aversion therapy on a patient. I wish I could say I was joking. Sometimes evil wins the battle. I can promise you there's a sort of halfway good ending to all of this, but in 2007, the state of Massachusetts could not shut Matthew Israel down. People were dying, but Matthew Israel had the perfect ally. State Representative Jeffrey Sanchez had a nephew, Brandon, that was in Matthew Israel's care since the age of 12. Israel is said to have shocked the same Brandon more than 5,000 times in one day alone. Although Autism Speaks was promoting the JRC in 2013, people knew about these horrific acts far sooner. In the Boston Magazine in 2008, when describing the shocks, students called it the longest 2 seconds of their lives, and that the school says the Graduated Electronic Decelerator, or GED, needed more juice. A couple years after the GED was first developed, the school made a new one, upping the milliamps from 15 to 41 and the voltage to 66, and calling it the GED IV. It burned.
Okay, when you increase the voltage, it is a big thing.
Burned skin. Legislators called it barbaric. But what's disturbed me the most is how they describe the shocks as punishment. According to the school's protocol, employees are to tell a student why he is receiving a shock. The state report refers to this as a pinpoint. The first of the rec room GEDs is given without a pinpoint for the behavior. The student was given a second GED with a pinpoint for physical aggression. The student is then heard asking, "Let them rotate me." Every hour, staffers must rotate the electrodes so they don't burn the skin. Though the school denies the GED injures students, Greg Miller says burns happened often enough that JRC staff had a name for the student going off to the machine so his skin could heal, a GED holiday. 18 was given for swearing, 19 was given with the accompanying pinpoint, no refusing to follow staff directions. The student responded to this with, yes, sir. 20 was given with no pinpoint. 21 again for refusing to follow directions. After 30 shocks in a single day, staffers were to get approval from a psychologist to shock more.
I think they should get shocked every time they do that by the same device.
A staffer at one point tried to call someone in upper management from the bathroom. You weren't supposed to use your cell phone on duty, and the bathroom was the only place that didn't have a camera, but he had no reception. The article then describes how this student was given a 37th, 38th, and 39th shock for attempting to remove the GED. 50 to 53 were for verbal threats, 10 more shocks for yelling, and at the end of the day, this
probably yelling because they were shocked.
Poor student had received 77 shocks. This isn't electroshock therapy.
No.
This isn't what Kyle received at the start of the video. And this isn't what the Mayo Clinic is talking about when they say carefully given electroshock therapy can potentially help severely catatonic.
No, this is shocking autistic people because they are not acting the way that these people want to at voltages and that you would go to prison for doing to a dog. Or jail, at least. You do time. But it's okay because they're just autistic. Who cares? I mean, dogs are more important than autistic people, and they're more human, I guess, than autistic people. So, you know.
And aggressive patients. This is not it. This has honestly made me gag. I'm appalled. And it's made me want to throw my computer across the room. Describing the student afterwards, the first staffer said he was done. There was no more him. His skin was very red. The student complained later that night of a racing heart, a dry mouth. He couldn't breathe, he said. He felt as if he were about to have a stroke. The report says no staff took action to help him, and the student remains at JRC but is off the machine. The article goes on to say that advocates for the disabled have no one to blame for JRC's survival but the parents of its students. And it's
say goodbye to old costly cable TV once and for all. This revolutionary invention gives you access to.
It's a shame because it was the parents advocating for JRC. Parents that didn't really know what their children may be going through exactly, but desperate for this resource. Matthew Israel took advantage, knowing he was all they had. One parent explains he would rather have his son shocked for a short amount of time than exhibit SIB behaviors. But it's not a short amount of time, really. And to terrify children into behaving, torturing children into behaving, it's not only that.
And it's the thing is behaving. No. That's misbehaving. I verbally made noises there. I ticked. That was a tick, actually. I didn't mean to do that. I just started doing it. And then the flapping. They don't like that, so your ass is getting shocked, kid. Doesn't hurt anyone. It helps them. It helps autistic people. It helps us to regulate and be calm. But instead, we're not going to allow that. We're going to force us to ramp up and get have more and more difficult times functioning because of what you're doing. So they're literally making it worse and then punishing the kids for their making it worse. When the kid did nothing wrong at all. He simply was autistic and acted differently. His brain worked, or her brain worked differently. But let's shock them.
Israel's methods were more than questionable. They were cruel and they were fatal. At least 6 students with disabilities died at JRC, either directly or indirectly because of the torture inflicted upon them in the name of treatment. Honestly, there are so many articles about the JRC that detail their cruelty, and it's no secret. It's not hard to find what they do. It's not as if Autism Speaks couldn't have simply typed a name into Google, done the most basic of searches in 2013, and realized who they were promoting. To endorse electroshock therapy.
They knew what they were promoting. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Is one thing. Electroshock therapy in of itself.
Remember, they wanted to eliminate autistic people.
Has many, many risks and a dark, depressing history. When it was first created and used in the US, it was around the time lobotomies were popular. Needless to say, we've taken huge strides in medicine since then. I don't want to say that Kyle or his mother from the start of the video are doing the wrong thing. Even Psychology Today came out in support that Autism Speaks would endorse electroshock. But the problem is bigger than that. It's not with this carefully controlled technique being used in limited, rare, last resort circumstances. It's that Autism Speaks was endorsing this organization that uses torture for some of its most severe members in the community. That's what—
Well, the thing is they wanted to eliminate us. So they wanted to kill us, to murder us. That was their purpose. That's why they were formed. To cure autism. To get rid of this brain and replace it with a different brain. So that I would be a different person. So torture, hell, well, I guess, is that better than murder? Just saying.
What kills me. That's what made me want to gag and scream, and what's been so rage-inducing. I had no idea. I didn't even want to believe that this could even be a possibility in modern times. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, or how people that were tortured in medieval times, but this was going on just 7 years ago. That's really, in the grand scheme of things, not a very long time. Autism Speaks was putting them, that name, on the cards they handed out to probably thousands of people at their—
Yeah, that's for their walks and so forth. I don't think they're doing that now. And the thing is actually on this, I don't know the story for sure. Yes, right here we have
their awareness walks.
We have the Judge Rottenberg Educational Center had a booth. But do we know that that volunteer or whatever that was that took all the applications, did that person necessarily know what Judge Rottenberg Educational Center was? No. Now, should somebody from Autism Speaks have recognized that no matter what and run from that or disallowed them to have a booth? Yes. Should they have known? Yes. But I don't know.
I wonder how many parents called that center. I wonder how many students that went to that center was because of Autism Speaks. It really makes my skin crawl.
And Autism Speaks are considered to be the authority because they are known. They are not liked, they are known.
I am at least pleased to say that Matthew Israel stepped down. Apparently, this was in order to avoid prison time, and he got 5 years probation, and that's not enough.
So it's basically, what they're going on is name recognition, not credibility.
People died in his care, and he only got probation. The good in this—
All right, we're going to make another quick video here. I think I'm going to make a couple here. Go back here.
Avoid prison time, and he got 5 years probation, and that's not enough. People died in his care, and he only got probation. The good in this really is that it's just It's not happening anymore. I say it's a sort of good ending because it would be a good ending if he went to jail, in my opinion, but that obviously didn't happen. This wasn't enough. It wasn't nearly enough. And the center is actually still open, but they have a 24/7 monitoring system, so at least it doesn't seem like this kind of thing is going on in there anymore. I'd say rename it at the very least and lock up Israel, but you know, hey, whatever, that's just my opinion, I guess. Later on, Autism Speaks came out and denounced the JRC once their full actions came to light. Some patients as young as 9 or 10 were receiving these shocks. Video was released, there was a public outcry, and Autism Speaks said, "We oppose the use of electric shock in behavior modification treatments." The video of the student receiving this type of treatment at the Judge Rottenberg Center is appalling, and Autism Speaks joins the many other organizations in calling for the end of this abuse. They also added on their website that they don't condone aversion therapy, which is pretty convenient after supporting it for the many, many years when they endorsed this center. I don't know how many times I have to say it, but if you are a giant corporation, you need to know what you're supporting. Seriously. Why is this so difficult? Autism Speaks rakes in millions of dollars every single year, but they aren't doing proper research about organizations they recommend you talk to on the back of their cards. It's ridiculous. But really, this topic as a whole has opened my eyes a lot to the way people view autism. It's despicable and loathsome. Reading some of the stuff and studies that came out of the JRC has made my blood absolutely boil. It's made me want to cry, it's made me want to vomit, and I cannot imagine the children that had to endure this. Children! This type of treatment
thank you.
Isn't therapy, it's torture. It's straight up torture. And
terrible. Thank you for coming on.
I wished I had some kind of relief in knowing that Matthew Israel was in prison where he can't hurt anyone again, but I don't. No human being deserves to suffer through this.
This lady here, I really like her. She is not autistic, and it's funny because I can just tell by her her speech patterns that she's not autistic. But I really love how she speaks on behalf of autistic. Really? Okay, let me see if I can turn this up a bit. That's really weird. Is that any better? Hello. Is this any better at all? I had no idea it was that quiet.
We have laws that prevent us from torturing terrorists, but not autistic children? If you supported Autism Speaks after this video, I don't know how you can possibly justify that position. Being vocal about what you stand for is important, and Autism Speaks told the world that they supported JRC. They took it back, but I seriously wonder, with their reputation being what it is, if they ever even bothered to look up that organization's history in the first place. People knew.
I'm gonna, you know what, I wonder what's going on. I have no idea. Okay, is it, or am I doing any better? I might have to, jump off and jump back on and see what's going on here. I think I might do that. Thank you very much. I'll be right back.